Hello and welcome to another episode of BFBS's The Rugby Breakdown Podcast. Welcome to our new home and to this year's competition. Welcome to the defending champions.
What sporting theatre we have seen here at Twickenham. Oh my goodness me.
The Navy go again here, and surely they've got the numbers and they have.
Beautiful try.
Wonderful score there, the Army.
Try number 4 is over the line from the senior service.
Only seconds to go here at Twickenham.
The Army are the victors. Incredible 80 minutes of inter-services action.
They've certainly been through an absolute battle, haven't they?
Well, our new studio is giving vibes, as they say, as is our social media guru, rugby nut and all-round great guy, JJ Bates. How you doing, mate?
You're too kind. You're too kind. I'm all good. I'm ready for an action-packed week.
It's Twickenham, baby.
Yeah.
It's, as outlined by your clothing choice, you've got the England shirt, the jeans and the brown shoes as well.
Yeah, I thought I'd represent the full Twickenham array of wardrobe. So wearing the England shirt, but plus the jeans and brown boots. As I say, all I'm missing is the Barber jacket, and then I'm full on Twickenham wear. But yeah, what an exciting week.
It's amazing, isn't it? And that excitement you can feel building up. You know, we've been chatting to the players about how they feel ahead of the big showdowns, the men's and the women's matches, of course, as we're doing always live on the BFBS Forces News YouTube channel. And how did we top last year? I mean, starting with the men's and seeing what we saw, we've spoken about it in previous pods in the lead up to this week. The Navy really, you know, racing ahead at halftime, 29-5 up at halftime. And the Army coming back to win, as we've said many times before, in the final play of the game with that incredible Imi Korawali try. 43-42. How do we beat that?
I mean, you're going to struggle to beat that. But, I mean, if any two teams can, I mean, it's these two. I mean, they're so tightly matched that it's wafer thin, and it's going to be fine margins on the day, I think we'll find between them. So if any two teams can live up to it, it's definitely these two.
Well, the fighting talk's already begun. I know certain players, your sort of namesake, I guess, Jack Johnson, who is a fantastic number 10 for the Army. He's been talking about how they want to get stuck into their naval opponents. And I know, as we'll hear from him later, Kai Beasley has been mentioning how obviously they're wanting to rid themselves of the memories of what happened last year too. What are the keys for you this weekend? I guess in the lead up to the big day itself, you know, captain's run on Friday and everything else.
I think the key word for this week, and it's going to be the key word for both the games on Saturday, is composure. You know, it's the big stage, that big build-up. We know about the rivalry between the two teams, so it's who's going to keep their heads on the day. I think, you know, when Army was so far behind last year, perhaps the men's team didn't keep that composure and keep that level of discipline, and then just gave that the Army a route back in. So I think that's going to be the key thing this year, is keeping that composure on that big stage, and when the pressure comes on.
Well, in a funny way, I guess, acclimatising to the way that we've been enjoying the sunshine in the UK over the last couple of weeks. The Army men, as we know, have been in Cyprus, and we've been hearing from head coach Tim Ozman to hear how things have been going on behind the scenes.
As ever, they will be up for a massive game against anybody in a red shirt at Twickenham. We know they've got a lot of dangerous prospects, certainly in the big forward pack, and they've got some quick guys out wide as well. So, you know, we are working on our game plan and also looking at how we can try and nullify theirs. It's worked a little bit in the past, sometimes less effective at others. Certainly last year is a big lesson for us to hoist on board the errors we made in that first half. We'll be looking to try and play our own game and snap our authority on it a bit earlier than we did last year.
Well, Tim mentioned there the importance of that first half. We always say it's a cliche, isn't it? And Daisy Fahey last week talking about the importance of the first half of a competition. Of course, the Army men getting involved now on Saturday. Despite it being a cliche, I mean, it's going to be fascinating to see how the Navy really try and get going in the early minutes.
Yeah, I think those, obviously, through what happened at the end result last year, you can say that, you know, it isn't as vital. But if we have the same start and the same scoreline this year as last year, I don't think it'll be the same end result. That's for sure. I think it's one of those things where you cannot let up. You can't let yourself go too far behind. And it was just a case of the squad perhaps Army were just a little bit deeper on the day and managed to turn it around at the right time. But yeah, they cannot I think the Navy get off to that kind of start again. I don't see the Army coming back this year.
Well, I guess in perhaps a bit of a cruel twist of fate, the way that the Navy's match with Marine Nationals, their French Navy counterparts, finished, losing in the final play of the game almost in the exact same fashion to Twickenham last year. You don't need any extra motivation, but to have been stung like that again, I mean, they're going to be really going for it here.
It hardens the resolve when you go through things like that, and those type of things where we'll talk again about composure, just knowing in those what to do in those dying seconds, in those clutch moments. Like, that's the thing we talk about in sport at the moment. Clutch moments. Yeah. The key plays at the key times of the game. Gaining
those inches, basically.
Exactly that, and just sometimes keeping it simple. And it's so easy to say. Keeping those clear outs, keeping possession at the right time, not giving the ball away. But obviously, when that adrenaline's going, that heart's pumping, the nerves are going. Your brain doesn't always think, especially when you're so drained at an end of the game. Because you think back to that game last year, just how physical it was. It was a tough game.
And mentally, you mentioned, it was emotionally draining for those of us watching on. Never mind the guys on the pitch.
We couldn't believe what was going on when we were watching. We were just looking at each other in disbelief, absolute try-fest, but some sublime play. It was, and as I say, so extremely physical as well. It's hard in those moments, but I do think having last year, having the Marine Nationale game, it will, those things live with you, and I think they'll be in the mind, and it could be an advantage if it's tight at the end of the game for the Navy, despite those two examples being negative events. It's one of those things that motivation of
galvanizes
I'm never letting that happen again.
Yeah, it galvanizes the squad. Yeah. And one guy who has spoken to us about just how that felt in the final moments for the Navy is the Navy's Kai Beasley.
Hi Simon. Bit of a tough one, asking how it would feel to turn over the result from last year. Obviously, losing the way we did is a massive emotional motivator, but wins for us against the Army don't come that often, because obviously they're a very good side in their own right. But when we won in 23, it was a fantastic feeling. So to put those demons to bed from last year, having lost in the way that we did, giving ourselves the best opportunity to win and then throwing it away, it'll be special, fantastic. But I think we've got a great opportunity to go and do that this weekend.
Mikey McDonald has also been chatting to us, talking about how much that rivalry means.
Yeah, so the rivalry for me is it's massive. It's, I compare it to a Wigan Saints derby or a City United. It means a lot to both teams on the day, and the biggest thing for both of us on that day is just getting the better of each other and getting the win for our service. But to put it bluntly, on the rivalry side of things, despite having lots of friends in that Navy team, they're not your friend in that 80 minutes. That is the enemy, and all you care about is getting the upper hand and winning that fixture. Until the 80th minute comes, all you care about is the lads around you. That team is, we're there to get the job done, and that friendship goes out the window until that final whistle. And coming from a military background and having my dad and growing up around the fixture in the Army Navy and how big it is, to now be playing in it, as well as alongside my brother, it's just massive, and it makes it's a very proud moment putting the Army shirt on in them fixtures, and I'm looking forward to doing it again this Saturday.
And it's just incredibly special. It's obviously a household name, the brand of the tournament itself, but especially when it comes for these two sides to facing each other, it's an incredibly special clash. There's
something that resonates as soon as you say Army Navy. That's You know, the hairs stick up a little bit on the back of the net, and it's something that resonates in more than one country. You know, the biggest game in the States is Army v Navy American football. That's played at an NFL stadium, and just over here, Army Navy rugby is played at the home of England Rugby. It's that rivalry amongst, you know, amongst the armed forces competitors. It's like, yeah, you feel that intensity.
How much do you think the Navy might be concerned by being outscored 3-2 against the RAF in Northampton? We know that the Army have such pace out wide. We know that Mikey McDonald and Jack Johnson, JJ, in midfield are fantastic exponents of their backs and the width that they like to put in the ball. How much do you think the Navy might be a little concerned at that? They'll obviously have been reviewing to the nth degree every second of that match against the RAF. I
don't think they should be too concerned. They're playing against. And the RAF play a type of game that they go for tries, and then they've got
jouet as you rightly put it.
So they've got plenty of spark and pace in their team. So conceding tries to the RAF, it's going to happen. What they should be pleased about is how they controlled the game, and they really, at points where the RAF were really getting back into it, the Hanley's kicking on the day, that metronomic kicking, it just kept on taking a little bit of heart and a bit of sting out of the game. And I think that goes back to that idea of what I think the gameplay should be from the Navy coming up. I think they need to make sure they take any sting out of the game with the Army and just keep on top and go for those kicks and play sort of a classic game of rugby. You know, that just simple, composed game of rugby.
And having numerous playmakers, which are absolutely key and so important to their side. You know, look at Will Wrigglesford at 9. Hanley, as you mentioned, with his fantastic kicking in Northampton. I think he just missed one, didn't he? Attempt at goal. Jordan Gott at 12, who often is in the 10 jersey, and Craig Duncan at 15. All of whom can kick very effectively too. And if it comes to a territorial battle, that'll be fascinating to see.
Yeah, exactly. I think what they can do and what they were very good at against the RAF was just picking their time in the moments of knowing when to attack and just waiting for those openings and not pushing it too far, because those gaps will come, they'll appear, and they just got the right players to play in those right areas of the game. And yeah, you saw with that interception that Gotti got against the RAF, which is just a fantastic reading of play,
telegraphed so well.
Yeah. So I think they've got all the elements they need in that back line just to play the right style of game against the Army.
What about the Army pack? You know, we mentioned just so you're almost feeling, you can hear some of those collisions, can't you? You're almost feeling that pain, feeling that sort of hit. It reminds me almost of back in the days of the early days of school rugby, and you're getting up at 8 in the morning, which of course for any school pupil is horrible, and finding yourself in a cold January morning just being absolutely pummeled by some very eager back row. But that Army pack is absolutely brilliant, and you look at the likes of Matt Dawson, who's played so much at open side, and how important the likes of him might be, and Pete Austin has been leading from the front. Who can forget, of course, those scenes of him celebrating just as Imi Korawale touched that ball down last year.
Yeah, I think the forwards battle is going to be really interesting on Saturday. I think they've got two very good packs, but the Army pack just certainly do look ferocious. And yeah, as I say, I wince at the thought of scrumming down against the likes of them. But I do think that forward battle could be key to how the game is played. If the RAF end up playing off back foot ball, and that pressure comes on early.
Navy.
Yeah, or Navy. I think that's going to be a key battle on the day for sure.
Absolutely. And we've heard, interestingly, Bezo himself, Kai Beasley, has mentioned, we've heard tell of this bomb squad that I guess he's liking to brand their replacements as. And we, of course, hear the box. We're almost expecting our colleague Justin Bazanki, who's always takes every opportunity to wear his South Africa top, to burst into the studio at any moment. But that's going to be key as well, to see after 60 minutes if it's going to be an intense battle, a physical battle, just what they can bring on in terms of fresh legs.
Yeah, this is the thing. Where I spoke about it last week, what you were seeing in international and top-level elite rugby, and this is elite rugby, is being brought into the inter-services game. So the idea of it being a squad game, talking about not substitutes but finishers, and it actually being a tactic of who starts and who finishes, knowing that you're going to have a complete game for 80 minutes and there's going to be no drop in standard.
It's changing that mindset.
Yeah.
Calling them finishers, as you say. Players to look out for? I guess you'll take Army, I'll take Navy.
Well,
in this match.
Seeing as I'm wearing red today,
it makes sense, my friend. It makes perfect sense, doesn't it?
It's no sense of where my allegiance lies. It's just, I am purely neutral. I am purely neutral.
He says. Well, I mean, all across the boards.
Yeah.
The players to look out for are right across the board. But, you know, we've mentioned a few of them already. But
seeing as I'm wearing red, I'll go for the Army side. So I will go with, finally, the Rocco has come back to the inter-services.
Yes, he has.
So, yeah, Samesa Rockadaguni, like, I mean, need I say any more?
No introduction needed.
Yeah, exactly. The flying Fijian, you know, England international, multiple tries, 355 points in the English Premiership.
It's decent. I mean,
he'd
be a good player someday. yeah.
Yeah, it's done all right. All right. So, you know, he's performed in a Premiership final, he's gone to World Cup. Like, he will bring all sorts of experience, and I mean, he's still 15.5 stone of twisted steel and pace. I mean, how can you not look for anybody else on the pitch? And it's so great to see these players of this standard come in. Yeah,
it makes it even more special. And our most senior camera operator, Mark Hearn, has been talking so much about this smoke machine which he wants to get, I think, for the studio. We almost need this to come out on the pitch as these boys are coming through the tunnel, don't we, as well? Yeah,
we do, that's for sure. But like, I'm looking forward to seeing Rocco back in an Army shirt and performing at Twickenham. And as I say, it's going to be special.
Yeah, I guess on the Navy side of things, we've mentioned Jake Hanley, and his kicking could be absolutely vital if it comes down to the case of just a few points by the end. Captain Fantastic, Jared Haler, as well, in the number 8 shirt. Always leading from the front. Barely misses a beat. Doesn't miss a tackle. Doesn't seem to miss an offload. You know, this guy is absolutely fantastic and just so focused. I think one of the things you and I find brilliant about him is just in interview how he's just totally... totally engaged, totally focused the whole time. And I mean, when you have a leader like that, it's very special.
Yeah, exactly. And you know, that focus, that eye for detail, and it exudes from him. So yeah.
Absolutely. And turning to the women's match, so men's first this time, of course, and every second live on BFBS Forces News YouTube, 1:30 UK time. And also behind the scenes content, of course, you've got some of your team heading along for social media content and getting every single flavour and colour in the day as well.
Yeah, we'll be on all platforms throughout the day. So Insta, Twitter, Facebook. We've got a whole team of people that'll be talking to all the excited fans outside of the stadium, getting all the predictions and the build-up, and obviously some of the wonderful fancy dress that we're going to see on the day, I'm sure. So, we'll get all that extra content that you really paints the picture of the day.
Who can forget those cheerleaders that you and I bumped into, the guys who were dressed up as about 6 or 7 cheerleaders down the road, literally as we parked the car on our way to Twickenham a couple of years ago, and those guys were they were loving it, weren't they?
Yeah, they were a good laugh.
Not to be outdone.
No, not at all. Is that what you're going to be wearing on the day?
No. I think you'd be pleased to hear that. Very, very pleased to hear that. But yeah, I mean, turning to the women's match, a resounding win last year for the British Army, now entering, of course, the competition, and just looking so strong under the leadership of Jade Mullen. And we mentioned focus with Jared Haler. She's another one. You look at just how she leads the side. She rarely, once again, seems to miss a beat.
Yeah, she's got an aura about her that it just, you just see focus. She's a person that you just want to play with. You know that she's got such a great rugby brain.
Brilliant,
and you just, I just think she's somebody I'd love to play with. Like, just a controller of the game and a tempo. Yeah, so she's phenomenal.
She is, and we've been along to training camp. Julian Evans, our colleague, has been getting the lowdown on how things are going there.
What are you expecting at the home of English rugby against the Navy? We expect the Navy to be like really physical. Obviously, they've already kicked off their inter-services against the RAF. They brought that to the RAF, and they'll probably be looking to then up it from there to look away and try and get more than one try against us going into the Saturday.
You've been working really hard for this fixture, for this entire tournament. So what are we going to see from the Army this time round?
Yeah, we've really worked on our defence, trying to get those double tackles in. So it's a real big significance going into this game is our defence better than what it was against Wales on the weekend?
And if you look at the momentum that the Army have been gaining in the lead into inter-services as well, looking at some of the recent results, 74-0 win over Havant, 15-14, that really tight win over Portugal, 17-14 against their French counterparts, Armée de Terre, 43-5 victory over Team Brunel, 41-31 defeat at the weekend to Wales under-20s. And we can see some of the footage from Jonathan Folk, brilliant stuff there. But getting that momentum, and obviously key when they've had a week to wait as well, watching the RAF and the Navy play.
Yeah, I was talking about an aura that exudes from Jade Mullen, but that also exudes from the team. Like, you just feel they are, what the All Blacks used to be. You just, they...
Not anymore. Careful, yeah. I'll remind you brought a Rugby World Cup 2015 New Zealand ball, so you be careful, my friend.
But that feeling of, when they get on the pitch, you just that sense of doom for perhaps their opposition, and I've said it before and I'll say it again, they would not look out of place in the Premiership 15 if that Army side were put in the Premiership 15. They would be extremely competitive. They've just got lots of depth, quality players, and going in with those results, they're going to be very, very, very confident.
All across the board, fantastic lineup. But I mean, those backs, you look at the likes of Courtney Pursglove and key in terms of kicking as well. It's just, as you say, I mean, it's special to watch, and the calibre just raises their expectations too. But they don't seem to let that affect any of the pressure that might be on them. You look at what happened last year, and they went and beat the RAF in Kingsholm straight after their 79-5 win over the Royal Navy.
Yeah, they just don't let anything get to them. They just they are purely focused on winning rugby games, and that's what they seem to do, like, constantly. But what I find interesting is how the Navy start this game, because if we look back on last year's game, the first 20 minutes, it was like, oh, do you know what? This isn't going to the script. There's that was a good period of time where the Navy were in that Army 22, but once again, the Army showed that level of skill, and having people who can clear the lines and get out is just, it's a skill that's second to none, and that was probably where the RAF were lacking. Where the Navy were lacking against the RAF last week. They just didn't have that weapon
pattern
to clear the lines.
Similar pattern, as you said, that first 20 minutes it did so well to get those turnovers and to stave off that pressure close to the try line. But the key for them this time out, of course, is how to actually get out of jail when they're so close to the line, because we mentioned the kicking game, how important that's going to be. Trying to get that territory and keep the ball in the phases and make sure they're recycling it the way they want to get into the 22, as you say, like they did last year.
And yeah, exactly that. I think that there are so many things that this Navy team can bring into this game. They can think about that first 20 minutes at Twickenham last year, where they put the Army under a lot of pressure. And as I say, they really did flip the script for a good period of time. And then also think about how good their defence was for the first half of that RAF game. They just didn't let a woman through. They just completely made a Navy brick wall and closed it down and just said, you're not going through me today. And that's exactly what they're going to have to do against the Army. Yeah,
they're just going to have to find those incisive moments, as you say, whether they're in their own sort of goal area, or whether they're in the 22 of their opposition.
Yeah, and I think there was times where in that RAF game they were breaking that first tackle when they had the ball. They were getting through that first tackle, but they just weren't getting that extra offload. So I'm sure it's something they probably are going to be working on over the course of the week, but perhaps just more supporting runs, just making sure that those players that do get those half breaks, that they've got somebody else just on that short pass, pop it off, and then who knows, you're in open space.
You love a good pass around the corner, don't you? As a hooker, front row, just those little nifty passes. In the old days, I guess you could have got away with not having to do that, but now, of course, you're in there looking for some of those offloads wherever you can get them, aren't you?
Yeah, usually when I'm taking a breather on the touchline, that's about it, really. But but it was also the things of you end up in open space, and then you still need another offload to go to the winger. But if it's off my left hand, you ain't getting it.
Well, that's fairly convincing, I think. Yeah, players to watch from an Army perspective. Then, who are you going to say? We've mentioned some of them already, but
I mean,
one.
I'll go to the person that we mentioned kind of off the top of this preview of the game, and I'll pick Jade Mullen. Like I say, her professionalism, her aura, what she brings to the game, and then we talk about what people bring to a team as like on and off the pitch.
Yeah.
This is a woman who's a Wales international. She's won the Premier 15s. She plays for Harlequins. One of the top club teams in the world. She knows she knows her way around a rugby pitch, and also you bring that to a squad. You bring that of that dressing room mentality, and she is Captain Fantastic. Really, what she brings to that Army team, you can really tell the rest of the girls really play in her model, in her image, and as I say, she's got such a quick rugby brain. It's not just like, she's got fitness, pace, strength. She's got all the mass skill set of a rugby player, but it's the quickness of her brain to know when to attack, when to just keep things simple.
That rugby nice.
Yeah, exactly. And you can't teach it. That's instinctive, and that's what she's got.
Yeah, I think from a naval perspective, we've mentioned Rose Dixon several times through the course of the tournament. Her leadership is very special. You go to training camp and you see how much that means to her side, the team, even if they do take the mickey out of her for some of her choice of singing and songs with the vegetable tunes, as we mentioned. But, aside from Rose, if you look in their back line, I think a player who can make a difference, their try scorer last year, Jasmine Ael at 15, with her ability to find and pierce gaps and those dancing feet, and a very good player at 15. A very good player for Rose Dixon to have on her outside shoulder, coming into the line with some of those nice angles. So if they're going to find incision and find those moments, I think she'll be absolutely key.
She certainly will. And she's another person who kind of raises the level of people around her.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to be, vital for Saturday.
Massive year for women's rugby in general. We have the IDRC in August and September, BFBS Forces News YouTube. We're going to have it live. All the games behind the scenes as well, coverage of all the training camps. And for all these players, of course, they're wanting to do so well for their services, but they also have an eye on competing for the UK Armed Forces team, and being a sort of, if you like, a home tournament, being in England. It's going to be a special one. We've got the draw for it, of course, on Saturday before the men's match, so before any of the action takes place, which I'll be hosting, and some dignitaries will be pulling out some ping pong balls with numbers on and making sure that the teams are in the right pools. So UCAF and France in different pools, and we also have the likes of Australia, we've got Ireland in there, Fiji, massive team, from whom we always get great support on our live streams too, which we always appreciate. But what a year for women's rugby. We've just seen that the Red Roses, what a cracker of a game at the finale in the Six Nations.
Yeah, that was an amazing finale. But as you say, what an incredible year for women's rugby, and this IDRC tournament being on home soil, really makes it extra special for all the women involved. This kind of feels like a bit of a Lions year for those services, and they'll want to do everything to represent the UCAF and represent the country against all these international sides coming over here, and they're not going to come over here and take that trophy easily. And
no, they're not travelling over here just to have a bit of a kickabout.
No.
It's going to be a special tournament. Of course, social media, plenty behind the scenes, and social media, forcesnews.com for all the updates as well, and very soon in terms of that draw from Saturday. And we also wanted to mention Josh McNally. You wanted to make a mention to.
Well, yeah, I mean,
him.
what an amazing week for the big man.
It may be a so-called fallow week in terms of inter-services for the RAF, but what a week it's been for him.
Yeah, so he's signed a 1-year extension on his contract with Cardiff, and then also beating the mighty Munster.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, that's an incredible week, and to be part of that, I think he's probably enjoying life right now, even though the RAF took a little loss on in Northampton. But yeah, big shout out to him and congratulations.
Absolutely, and if you haven't seen it, we've got a special with Josh McNally and some of the other players from 2015 and 2018, those RAF players who won the inter-services, and talking about those special memories. It's on our YouTube channel, BFBS Forces News YouTube, so if you haven't checked it out, please do go there and have a look.
And by the way, the most crushing handshake you'll ever have. Like that's
he's a man mountain, that man.
Oh,
yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not very tall myself necessarily, but obviously, but he is. Was he 6'7"?
Yeah, he's around that. You're just constantly looking up at that. It's like,
I think that's the general thing.
I'm sure I'm average height, and then you look at him, you're like, nah.
Standing there with all the kids waiting for the autographs at the end of the Cardiff matches, just looking up at him. So Saturday, obviously, massive day. Really looking forward to it at Twickenham. Where can we find all the social media stuff? We've got a couple of guys there, haven't we, for those?
Yeah, so we're going to have a team of people, so watch out for them. If you're attending the game, they might ask you a few questions, as I say, especially if you're appearing in fancy dress, so be prepared to appear on our social media. We'll be on X, we'll be on Facebook, we'll be on Instagram, and I'm sure we'll do a bit of TikTok as well.
You didn't do your little YMCA move there, I noticed this time for X, like you did last week. Oh dear, he's done it again. Oh dear. But yes, that's fantastic. I'll be commentating on the women's match, which will be brilliant. After the men's, we'll have every second of the action live. BFBS Forces News YouTube channel. Look forward to seeing you very soon and seeing all of you there.